there, Cindy Daychuck with Queen Bee Creations, and today's project is going to be making over these two awesome chairs. Now they are definitely a little bit older. First thing that had to take place with this was cleaning them off, chipping off some of the paint that that already decided to chip off. So getting rid of some of that. There's layers of paint on these. I'm going to leave it kind of chippy. So I'm not going to agonize over trying to strip these all down to repaint. Mostly because they're all spindles, and it's tough enough to just hand paint spindles, let alone try and get everything sanded. So I took off the worst of the flaking and chipping paint. I'm going to be using DIY paint in Apothecary. This lovely light kind of farmhousey green. And I just got in cool old grain sacks to do for some pattern grain sacks for the covers. So really not a tough project until we get to the fabric. So I'm going to start by taking the Apothecary paint and turning these upside down. So one of the easiest things to do is to paint the bottom of chairs first and then worry about the top part. And I don't have to take off the fabric until I flip it over and start painting up here anyway, because I'm going to want to paint underneath where I'm going to be attaching these. So I'm going to flip them over, I'm going to start painting them, and then we'll join in again when I have to start stripping it off before I can start painting the top. Okay, as with all things, plans change. So I kept looking at this fabric, and it's pretty grungy looking. The webbing is only half in, half out. A lot of the nails are out. So when I started to try and order some trim, I also ordered some new jute webbing. I'm gonna redo it from scratch. And here's the other dilemma I found. I am only halfway through this chair, and I have probably pulled out over 100 nails. So it's not going fast, and I'm kind of cursing these chairs, so it's a good thing. I really love these chairs. So I am going to have to pull out as many of these nails as I can, and then I'm going to have to do some wood glue and some wood filler on the wood that's remaining, because I've done almost 100 nails and I'm only to here. I've only done an L. I still have another L to go. And in a lot of respects, it means when I go to re-nail, I'm likely just going to be hitting a hole. So I'm not going to be getting good purchase to be able to hold my fabric in place and the new jute webbing. And kind of the integrity of the wood is compromised a little bit. I can't really replace it. So without taking the whole chair apart, which I'm not a carpenter. So what I'm going to do is try and strengthen the wood as it is, and put in new webbing and make it tighter, which I think will also help the stability of the chair. And it just means that it is a lot of working with pliers primarily to pull these out. The hammer doesn't work so much. I have the hammer out for the few that I can't get out because they're too low and the wood is too soft, because the nails that they've used really don't have a head. Very similar to like the pneumatic guns, where there's not really a head per se on the top of the nails to be able to get a grasp of. But these are really tiny, old, kind of almost square-headed nails. And when I'm trying to pull them, the head just kind of disappears, so they become just straight little pins, which is making it a little bit tougher. And it's a good thing I'm alone in my shop, because I might be seeing some different things as I'm pulling them out. But I'm going to be here for a while doing that and getting all the nails out, and then using wood fill on this and sanding before I start to paint. So I'm going to be hanging out on my own doing that probably over the next couple of days, actually, to be able to get that happening. And then we'll be carrying on. So I can't wait for you to see some of the fabric, and I've got some jute trim that I ordered, so I'm still keeping them very, very farmhousey, because it's kind of the style of the chair, and I think it'll work and look good with it. But all this fabric is going, and we're going to be starting from scratch. And as much as I don't really know what I'm doing, and I'm talking about webbing, I've never done it, I'm going to be faking it. You get to see it. So if you're watching the video later, I'll be done already, so you can't have suggestions to fix these ones, but I invite you to send in your suggestions so that if I get stuck doing this again in my lifetime, I will know better. But I'm going to figure it out the best I can in the meantime, and we'll take it from there. All right, we have 2 coats of our apothecary paint on here, and that was more than enough to provide us with the coverage that we need. These have all been stripped down, nails removed, hundreds of nails were removed. It took hours. But these are awesome chairs, so they're gonna be worth it, I swear. So the next step with these, before we begin anything, any recovering, is we wanna get these finished. So we need to sand them, do a little distressing, and get them sealed and dried, buffed. I had ordered the webbing in, it is just arrived, so we are ready to kind of move on in our project. I'm gonna use a 320 grit sandpaper for this because I'm not looking for major distressing, I just want light distressing. I definitely wanna knock off any of the rough spots on these and just make it kind of nice and super smooth to the touch. And that's really the main part. So there'll be a little bit of light distressing on it, maybe some of that original white and tan showing up. But I'm just gonna carry on doing the sanding on both, dust them off, and do some seal with wax. So I'm just going to clear wax them and allow it to dry and buff it up. We are at the fun stage, which means we're at the stage where I really don't know what the heck I'm doing. I am faking this. But what I did do was I faked one off camera to make sure that it worked. And I tested it, made my husband sit in it. So it held, there were no tears, no creaks, no nothing. So we're good to go. So I'm going to show you what I did. But this is where we're going. I have, sorry about the squeaks. I have awesome fabric. These are flour sacks. So they've got all the old vintage pictures on them and things. I got them from JamieRayVintageHome.com, and they are actually, they come sewn together for curtains, but they're huge. So they come like this, right? All these different flour sacks sewn together. So this one with the chicken, that's the one that I cut up and I used on that chair. And this cow that you see, that's gonna be cut on the next chair. And so awesome. So you get 2 panels together and they're just perfect for these chairs because you got that old world vintage feel that I was going for, kind of that farmhousey look. Perfect. But before we get to putting that fabric on, we have to create a base. Now this was set up to be done with strapping, not with just a set down seat. Although, well, you couldn't really do that very easily, but you know, whatever. So what I do have is I do have a piece of canvas that I've cut to sort of fit in here. So that will be the underside, right? So that we have underneath a nice clean cloth finish. Let's put this down. So you can just have that nice clean cloth finish on your chair. And then I had to wait for strapping to arrive because it's nothing that I keep in stock to be able to do the chairs. And I'm going to staple gun them at the same time. So what I do want to do is kind of cut my strapping so that it will be long enough. And I'm doing 3 across. So 3 down, 3 across. So I do need to have some strapping. I'm cutting it longer than I need so then I can just cut it down after. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, so let me get 3 cut here. And then we'll see what I'm doing. Yeah, and I gotta tell you guys, most of the stuff I show you how to do, I'm faking it. I'm doing it for the first time. And I think that's perfect because really, with any of these projects that I'm showing you, I want you to know that you can do them too. You know, it's really, if I can do it, you can do it. So I'm kind of figuring it out as I go, and if that helps you to be able to know what to do when you are faced with this, perfect. I am sure that there are some of you that are going to be watching this going, oh my gosh, that is the totally wrong way to do that. In which case, share with me some of your expertise. I am more than happy to learn too. So, this is what I did on the other chair. I just kind of lined up this first piece, and I didn't agonize about the rest. I just wanted to get one piece done. So, I have my staple gun, and I'm just going to get this in. Now I'm trying not to staple at the back edge, I'm trying to staple at the front edge because I still have to staple on my other fabric, and so I didn't want to be stuck trying to staple over staples. But I'm not so good at figuring out exactly where the staples come out of that. So I did find I was missing a bunch of times, but I'm okay with that. All right, so I just want to get this one in and kind of feel where that edge might be. Yahoo! Okay. And I'm just going to take a couple of staples and just kind of staple this fabric. I like going front to back and then side to side. So while I figure out my staples, and I don't know if you're like me, these still kind of freak me out a little bit. So do try and make sure everything I own is out of the way. Because if somebody was going to staple themselves, it would be me. Okay, so now that that's at least holding itself up into place, I'm going to add, my next pieces. And I just want to get them roughly in place. I'll try and pull that bottom canvas a little bit taut as I go. All right, so for this last one, we're just going to try and pull it nice and tight. Okay, and trust me, this is going faster the second time than it did the first. For this next row though, and here's where a little bit of the trick kicks in. Let's get my 3 straps across cut. And this strapping I just found on Amazon. I still have, on my other chair, I still have some jute trim that I'm waiting for, so I'll finish the video. I mean, it'll be all the same to you. I'll be finishing the video once that comes in. So for this row though, instead of just putting this over the top, we're gonna want to weave it. So this row will go over, under, over, and the next row will go under, over, under, and the same thing for the back. And that way we're just adding, again, just a little bit more strength to it all. And just kind of space them out how you need. And again, you're just going to try and pull them and the base fabric down as taut as possible and staple it all in place like I just did. When it comes to the cushion for this, these had some original horsehair cushioning, and I elected to kind of keep that, but add to it. So what I have done is it's been disinfected. It has spent time out in the sun with the disinfectant and bleach and things, so it's all cleaned. But I'm just using it as a form, and I just have some little of that not foam padding, but just that chair padding that I'm using in addition to the original. But I'm using this as my template. So I'm just kind of roughly cutting around this. And we'll do the same for the top, because this particular chair has little padded sections up in the arms, which I'll show you after, and I'll show you how I did that. Okay, out of my way. So we are putting this down, and then we are putting our padding down, and then that's what we are going to put our fabric over top of. So what I have is the cow, and I've left enough space on either side and at the ends to be able to pull that fabric taut. So for this, we're just pretty much doing some straight stapling on this. And we just want to pull this tight, and it'll be easier to cut. You saw that I trimmed off the excess fabric from the base. And it's not hard, it's just really awkward because of the spindles in the arms of the chair. I tried on the other one using a utility knife to cut it, and the fabric didn't like that. It liked scissors better. So as much as it looked really awkward, it did seem as though it was the best way to go about it. And for this, I'm going to try and use my bottom as little as possible, just as tight as possible. Just I'll staple here first, just because I want more of my cow to show, if that makes sense. So I'm going to staple there first. So with this now, it's just a matter of, and I like to staple down, kind of squishing my fabric down in there. And I just want to make sure that I get it into that lip of where the fabric is, because I can cut the excess away, no problem. Awesome. And let me just do a couple on either side. And then we'll do a couple at the top, because I like it to kind of stay nice and taut and smooth. I'm just looking for where that crease is. Okay, and then before I finish doing those edges, I like to go across and do the side edges. Then I will go all the way around and staple it on in place, and then just simply cut the excess away. All these staples show right now, but that's where our trim that we're gonna glue around the edge is going to kick in, right? That we'll get that glued down, and it will give us a nicer finish. We have our seat done. Oh, you guys can't see it. All right. So we have our seat done, and now it's time to kind of futz around with these. You can see that these are padded both sides. Yay. Yay. It's kind of a fun part of the chair, but, you know, it was just a little more work. But we did, you know, I did exactly the same kind of thing. What I did was I took my strapping, measured it out to be able to fit that space. And there's a bit of a curve, so I angled it and stapled this in place. Let me just do that quickly here, so that there's some support for it on the inside. There we go. Now, oops, totally missed that one. Okay, so before I do anything else, I want to put a piece of strapping on the other side too, just for extra support. Okay? So I'm going to put strapping coming this way. All right, so put the strapping on the back, it's a little bit large, and staple that in place. And then I have taken that same backing and I have cut similar shapes. I have two of these, wrong way. So I have two of these. So I put that on one side, and then I used this, and then I used the other on the other side. So I used the horsehair on one side, and then I used the other with two strappings in between, and then staple gunned the fabric over top. Now, with the two flower stacks that I used, this is leftover from my cow, and I should be able to get 4 pieces out of this. You just want to make sure that the lettering is going the right way. So we don't want the lettering going sideways, we don't want it going backward. Just make sure that it's going the right way. So all I'm going to do is do strapping stapled in, and then my stuffing, and then staple gunning this fabric over top. Straightforward? Yes. All right, my trim has finally arrived, and in order to have something that goes with this old flour sack fabric, I elected to get some jute. And what I did get is this flat woven jute, just because I wanted something that was a little bit wider, that wouldn't have the bump of a rope to it, and something that kind of had that natural tone to it as well, since this is all old and worn and whatever. So the idea with this is that we are going to be gluing, using hot glue, gluing down and running this around the edges. Now, with hot glue, obviously it's super hot. Careful of your fingers. So there are times that I maybe push things down with my scissors, etc. I'm not going to worry about this finished edge yet. I'll wait till I get around and match up with it. But all that I look at doing is anchoring down, doing a little bit at a time, and kind of trying to cover up my staples and as much of the fabric as I can, and kind of gluing it flat. This kind of has a bit of an open weave. So when I get to the corners, I'm actually just going to try and turn it and not do a cut and paste job on it. I think it will be easier to keep it all one solid piece and go at it that way. I'll try and get this so that you can see as I'm coming around here. Now this is the piece that I started with, and I'm just going to trim it off, the excess where it wasn't glued down, trim that off. I'm going to take this line just a little bit closer. There's still a bit of a gap, but that seam, tap it down and then start pushing it more firmly into place. And then I look and I see how much do I have left till they join up. So I'm looking at just about right there. And I'm going to add in my glue, and I like to go over the rough edges just a little bit so that when I push this down into place, there's a little bit of extra glue there that kind of helps deal with those fringes. And that kind of does it. And if I don't have enough there, I just think that I'm missing a little bit, then I'll take a dab of glue on top, let it cool slightly, so that I'm not gonna burn the heck out of my fingers, just dealing with all these little threads as I see them. It gets everywhere. And then once this is cooled off enough, then we'll take a finger and just kind of push that glue down into those threads so that those endings, the rough edge of it, is going to be fine. And that's it for trimming off our piece. So I'm gonna just finish off the last little bit. The arms that are up here are done just exactly the same. And what I found is I'm going straight across the top, I curve down the side with the second piece, and then I do a third piece that's straight down here. So this is way easier than the seat. I don't have any of the spindles in the way. And once it's all done, I do take a quick look just to see that everything is all glued down, that I don't have any raised edges. If they are, then I just use a little dab of glue. So I'm gonna finish up the top, and then I will get these staged up for a pick. But I'm in love with these chairs, and I'm gonna hate to put them up for sale. See you guys soon.